African politics, geopolitics, and global governance. Professor YOROMS is a senior fellow of the National Defense College. He was former provost, Center for Strategic Research and Studies at the NDC. The professor attended various schools, of course, including the UK Defence Academy. He was a member of Vision 2020 that was set up by late President Yaradua. And he's been, involved in ECOWAS. In fact, talking about ECOWAS peace support operations in Mali, he was involved. He was also a coordinator of the ECOWAS training research project on the herders farmers clashes we have in various parts of West Africa. Professor YOROMS, you are welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So we're going to look at West Africa mainly. There seems to be wars everywhere. West Africa and its neighbors. For instance, if we look at Chad, it has witnessed at least 5 civil wars. Can that country know peace in the next decade? And how can it? With 5 civil wars already.
Thank you, OWEI. I'm happy and delighted to be in your studio this moment. First of all, I just want to make a slight correction over my dossier which you mentioned. I was actually acting provost, Center for Strategic Research and Studies of National Defense College. So I was not actually the provost, but acting. I acted for a period of a year.
Okay.
So back to your question. This question is very difficult to answer, whether it is in positive or negative terms. The Republic of Chad, as we know it today, has a complex and tortuous history, which time will not allow me to discuss here in detail. But the little we know from history is that Chad was one of the territories that France acquired in the early part of 19th century. In fact, it was a country they got and designed it haphazardly. If you look at the map, it's haphazard. And it's not a country that they value. In fact, the northern part, they call it useful, not useless Chad. The southern part, which has savanna, mangrove area, they call it useful Chad. And if any French diplomat, as at that time, were posted to Chad, they will protest because it will be like a punishment. So, as at that time, you can see the extent to which Chad was rated in. So, well, by 1960, they got the independence under Francois Nagata Tombale, a Christian from the south, and because the French people were able to concentrate the southern part of the country, which they said is useful, and they were able to train the southern ethnic group. Apparently, the south constitutes of Sahara ethnic group. Sahara ethnic group constitute 30%, the largest in population, about 4 million now, out of 16 million of the population of Chad. The other part is made of various ethnic groups, especially the Arabs, the Tomboa and others. But when Tombale took over, by 1961, he had already banned political oppositions, what Samuel DiCarlo called abolition of competitive politics. So, ban opposition, repression, and rule with impunity, and concentrated interest in his ethnic group, the Sahara ethnic group, because they were populated, they were educated, and his ethnic group dominated the military, the civil service. The northern part was actually controlled by France from 1960 to 65. By the time France left the northern part in 65, he sent his ethnic group to take control of the civil service in the northern part. So it was a policy that he started and created the basis for the crisis we're experiencing in Chad. So by 1965, there was the Tomboa people decided to move to Libya, southern part of Libya, that is southern part of Libya that borders Chad, and form the opposition. That is where Frolinat was formed, and they started fighting and trying to overthrow him. By 1975, he was overthrown. Then Felix Malone took over, and it was not easy. The government of national unity that was set up folded up because there was no unity to actually bind them together. And the North that took over power began to fight themselves. Kokone Wadai fighting his defense minister, Hessen Hebre. Hessen Hebre overthrew him, and it continued like that. Idris Debe was defense minister to Hessen Hebre, overthrew Hessen Hebre, and then took over in 1990, and some pockets of rebellion continue. So you may say at least 5 civil wars. There are crises and civil wars intertwined. Also with crisis from Sudan, fighting from the Darfur side, Libya from the northern side. So Chad has been in crisis for all these years. And as to whether there will be solution to this, we can't say, because the present transition government doesn't have the grasp of handling and ruling the country in the way it should be.
Okay, well, we do have a possible solution in sight for Chad, but for Mali, it's again a war, civil war between the north and the south, with the north trying to establish an Azawad republic. Rather allow conflicts to go on. Will it make sense to say, okay, fine, divide Mali and let everybody have their own republic? Is that a solution?
Actually, the crisis in northern Mali is complicated by the composition of ethnic groups in that axis. We had the Tuaregs. There are Tuaregs there. We have the Fulbe people. We have the Songhai. The Tuaregs actually wanted independence, and they have been struggling for independence. But the Songhai, the Fulbe, others don't want to be in the same country with the Tuaregs, the Azawad independent state. They prefer to be in Mali. And the complexity came in a way that the extremists, violent extremists, also intermingled and were fighting for the imposition of Sharia in northern Mali. Northern Mali has 60% of the landmass of the country. And so if you're going to have independence of Azawad, there will be crisis even among themselves. So ordinarily, I would have accepted that Azawad should be given their own independence, but the challenge is because Azawad, Gao, actually, which is their headquarters, was an independent territory pre-colonial. It was Mansa Musa who was, well, coming back from Makkah with all his wealth, conquered the Tuaregs and annexed them to Mali Empire. Okay. If not, they were actually independent of their own. And and then Songhai Empire grew after the collapse of Mali Empire. So they have pockets of independent territories pre-colonial. But the circumstances we find ourselves in contemporary society makes it more complex to ask them to go on their own. But what I want to advise is that Malian government can create an inclusive government. Number 2, provide basis for federalism or confederation. If that would solve the problem, it would be okay, I think. If not, I was actually in Mali. We were the one that developed the concept of operation and planned the intervention of AFESMA before MINUSMA came in. The circumstances in Mali is very complex and it's very difficult to...
There are also mercenaries there.
Yeah. The issue of mercenary actually, the international law forbids the use of machinery in wars, civil wars, for example. But you see, those who created the international laws are also aligned machineries in Ukraine. So why would you say that of Mali is an aberration? I don't know. I'm thinking aloud anyway.
Well, let's come from Mali, move from Mali to Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
What kind of crisis do we have in Burkina Faso? I know it has gold and it's been, a center of attraction for armed groups, and it's a trade route for so many countries.
Yes. Actually, I will say something to you that you would not like to hear. I am a proponent, supporter of a democratic coup, a military coup that is democratic, to rescue democracy.
How is that possible? Military coup that is democratic?
Yeah, a democratic coup to rescue democracy. It's a complicated issue to address, but something nobody wants to hear, because once you're in democracy, you should think of democracy. What happened in Burkina Faso is so pathetic. When the coup took place, it was assumed that the government was not doing anything. Kabore's government provided enough budget, provided enough resources for logistics. But unfortunately, the military was not able to address the issue. The Inata military crisis, where the 53 policemen were killed waiting for their welfare logistics, triggered the basis on which the military came in and overthrew the government. But if you look into the issue, it's not as if the government did not provide something for the military. The ability to prosecute the terrorists, fight the war, has an undertone. What is the undertone? The coup, from all indications, has shown that some external forces were interested in overthrowing the government. Can you imagine? Compaoré, who is a refugee in Cote d'Ivoire, is now being invited back to Burkina Faso to solve the problem of terrorism. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. There's something underneath. Why? Because, number one, Ouattara, that we saw as a good diplomat, a democrat, triggered the process of tenure elongation, kept Compaoré in his country when he was needed for prosecution in Burkina Faso. And when the judicial ruling was completed and Compaoré was found accused, implicated in the killing of Sankara, what happened? He's now becoming a saint. So you can see the linkage in that coup. So the coup actually was not actually to fight terrorists. It was actually to redeem Compaoré. You can also look at what happened to Mali. 49 Ivorian soldiers have been arrested in Mali. They were claiming that they are peacekeepers. They are being sent there by allegation, possibly, which I believe, to overthrow Malian government so that France can come back. So we have a complicated situation in our country, in our continent, subcontinent, that we must address. Mali, Burkina Faso has a lot of resources, but the complication of internal dynamics is creating challenges for the resolution of the conflict. We expect that the issue of Compaoré should have been put to an end, and so that we can address this problem. But we are rebounding the situation. We cannot blame the government of Compaoré. That's my take about Burkina Faso, that there are external forces. France has hand in it, Cote d'Ivoire has hand in it. Until we address this issue, we cannot resolve the problem in Burkina Faso. If not, the government actually had made its own effort to resolve the crisis in Burkina Faso.
Okay, let's come closer home to Nigeria. Cameroon has been at war for some time. Some of those people used to be part of Nigeria, and then they moved to Cameroon on the basis that there will be some duality in terms of language and culture and other things like that. But so the war has gone on, and it doesn't seem to have any solution. So what's the problem with Cameroon, and how can this crisis be resolved?
The crisis in Cameroon actually is historical. And the leadership in Cameroon is not willing to address the issue. The merger of southern Cameroon with the main French Cameroon was based on an agreement. I was in southern Cameroon. I was shown the ground zero where the agreement was reached for the two to merge together. It's all written to maintain the bilingual character of the country. But unfortunately, the leadership in Yaoundé has decided to make it a one-party state and repressed the southern part of Cameroon. I was in a meeting, high technical meeting that took place recently somewhere in Africa, where the meeting was rounding up. I felt the issue of Cameroon was not mentioned. I told the committee, I raised my hand, I said, I'm from Taraba State, and I have a border with Cameroon. We have challenge of refugees. Something must be said and be done about Cameroon. It was as if I have thrown a bombshell. Everybody kept quiet. And they said, well, it's part of the conflict in Africa, and blah, blah, blah. And we left the meeting. So, Paul Biya has constituted himself into a force that would not make peace in Cameroon. I believe, as I've discussed with some of them, they said if Mandela could stay 26 years in prison, and today South Africa is free, they believe that they will keep on the struggle. One day they will be free and liberated. To some extent, some of us from Nigeria blame them also. They were running out of Nigeria because they thought that they will be oppressed in Nigeria. And if they had stayed in Nigeria, there would be a state of their own and be part of the Nigeria federal system. So I believe that the struggle in Cameroon will not end now. It will not end now until the AU must look into it. The UN must come in. Unfortunately, the French will not allow that discussion to come out in the UN. That is the unfortunate aspect of this situation to find ourselves.
We're still around Nigeria. We have Niger Republic. A lot of people, influx we have in Nigeria, undocumented people are from Niger Republic. What really is the crisis there? Is it just the question of the Boko Haram, and how can we, resolve this?
Well, we have the ECOWAS protocol on free movement, and based on that protocol, you cannot deny anyone in West Africa to move around West Africa. So the only thing is left.
But you have a 3-month, it's not as if you just go to any West African country and just stay there.
Yes.
There are residency laws also.
Yes. But you know that the border between Nigeria and Niger is so porous, and it's like a family thing. In fact, if you go there, you can't even see the border itself. You can't see the demarcation.
So there's no border?
There's no border. People move in and move out.
Borderless,
It's a borderless kind of thing. So they don't. All these structures are created by colonial this thing. The only thing is for Nigeria to actually immigration and security forces to actually man the border, if actually there's a border. And if we don't strengthen our security forces, we can't blame the people moving around. Anybody can commit crime. It's left for the security agencies to address the issue. And if they're not addressing the issue, you cannot blame them. You blame your security, you blame your government that allows this thing to happen. And And some of them have joined and become members of maybe Boko Haram. You may not know, it's possible. But the leadership need to do something to address this. Unfortunately, there's no cooperation. I remember during the time of Jonathan, he tried to meet with all the states, Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad. He was finding a problem. He had to call France and appeal to France. And it was France that called a meeting of the axis of the Sahel where Boko Haram is taking place to meet in Paris. What an insult. The same thing Buhari came. He had to, as old as he has to go to Nigeria, he had to go to Cameroon, he had to go to Chad, pleading with them, let's meet and resolve this challenge. So if we cannot cooperate among ourselves, the leaders, then it is difficult for us. What we have, we have transactional leaders. We elect transactional leaders into authority. So because of that, they don't bother whatever happens.
Thank you very much. This is Diplomatic Hour with OWEI LAKEMFA on Citizen 93.7 FM Abuja. And our guest today is Professor GANI YOROMS. We can also look at Guinea. In the case of Guinea, it's not about North-South. It seems to have been the military coups we've had since the demise of Sekou Touré. What is the problem with Guinea? Can ECOWAS call the military to order?
As to whether ECOWAS will mobilize the military.
No, can ECOWAS call the Guinean military to order?
Military to order.
Yes.
I have just given you a scenario of what happened in Cote d'Ivoire. We are not able to handle Cote d'Ivoire. Ouattara, a diplomat, a Democrat, committed a constitutional flaw by elongating his stay in office. And if you cannot deal with such a one, Togo, the same thing, and now you want to go and deal with military. What right, what audacity do you have? Do you have conscience? Within them, they would have told Ouattara that, look, what you are doing is wrong. It will trigger basis for coup. And Condé had ruled for 2 years, 2 terms. And there were efforts to make him step down. He refused. People died. ECOWAS stood aloof. As a friend of mine would say, akimbo. ECOWAS stood akimbo. I was watching what was happening in Guinea. So the military came as a rescue democracy from being collapsed. So you now tell me that you want to mobilize the peacekeeping forces to go and flush out the military. Abba, this is not right.
So what's the solution?
Because the people on ground appreciated what the military had done. So we have, the solution is look at where the pulse of the people. What is the pulse of the people? Except ECOWAS become the ECOWAS of the citizens. ECOWAS cannot take decision in a way that will react, would be against the interests of the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is Central African Republic. Again, there's a battle there amongst various groups.
Yeah.
What's going on there? There had been coups, counter, civil war, which has spilled over to Chad and some neighboring countries.
Yes. Central African Republic is like any other country, Chad, or that is in crisis. Unfortunately, there has never been an election in Central African Republic until 1993, when Angin Patasse from the north was elected. But the election was, there was a coup against him by Bouzazi. And Bouzazi ruled until 2013. South Africa has mineral resources, diamond. From the time it started in 1960, the leader that was supposed to have welded the piece together died in 1959 before the coup. Boganda. Boganda died before the 1960, and his nephew, that's the problem of working with relationship, his nephew, David Dako, was asked to take over government. So Dako stayed there in 1965. Then Gen Bokassa, Bedel Bokassa, took over and declared himself
the field marshal.
Field marshal. And they were sharing these resources, giving permits, license to all their cronies and relations into office. The northern part, which to some extent is dominated by Muslims, was neglected. Until 1993, I told you, Agnes Patase took over. But Agnes took over from a government that was forced to conduct election. But when he took over, he himself also played the same ball, was playing ethnic politics, religious politics, and so he was kicked off. So to the extent that the North Selekas group began to mobilize, supported by Chad, supported by Sudan, to some extent at that time, Gaddafi at that time, and were armed to go and topple Bouzazi. And they made their attempt actually in 2013. And they toppled him, bring in a Muslim, Michael. But because France was not interested in having somebody from the north, Michael was removed. A woman was placed as an interim president. And since then, there has never been crisis. Sangari peacekeeping was sent by France to restore peace. But the peace in Central African Republic is lopsided in favor of certain group that France wanted. So as it is, the crisis in Central African Republic has remained and will remain until we mobilize, I don't know, AU, let me say AU again. But the AU doesn't have the teeth to bite. It's all just depend on these Western powers. So until the internal politics is settled by the people, the crisis will continue, because a lot of people from the northern part of the country were sent out of Bangui, the capital city, and you cannot expect peace in that country.
Okay, let's talk about our country, Nigeria. We have Boko Haram in the northeast. We have crisis in the middle belt, the food baskets. They said it's elders, farmers, and I know you're an expert on that issue. We have banditry across the country. So what are the causes of this? And now, what can we do to stabilize this country?
Well, it's a big question. It's a big question we keep on asking ourselves. I have just discussed crisis in other countries. We discussed Cameroon, we discussed Guinea, we discussed all these countries, Niger and all that. Chad. So I wonder how I also should be discussing Nigeria, because Nigeria is supposed to be a big country, powerful country that most African countries are looking up to. In fact, if you go out of Africa, and whether they like you or not, they will appreciate you because you're a giant of Africa. Africans like Nigerians because of the way we speak at the international fora. And we speak with audacity, with authority, as a leading African nation. I remembered our former president Olusegun said something some time ago. He said God created three sets of human beings. Number one, black race. Number two, white race. Number three, brown race. He said ordinarily America should lead the white race. Chinese should lead the brown people. But for black people, it should be the Nigerians. Unfortunately, look at where we are, fighting ourselves when they are respecting us from outside there. How do we solve this problem? We need inclusive politics. We need to accommodate various interests. In 1978, when General Murtala came out with presidential system of government, I personally had wanted the 49 wise men to have discussed, do we actually need presidential system of government? But they just accepted it that the head of state has said presidential system of government. They started working on presidential government. Two people, me one, Professor Dudley.
Okay, you are.
Dudley, yes. Professor Dudley was the one that was pressing for proportional representation. Proportional representation, so that it will address some of the complexity we have as a nation. In fact, if they had even gone back to parliamentary system, it would have been better. Presidential system is very expensive. The president becomes a teen god, because once you elect him, he cannot look back again. He cannot be controlled by the National Assembly. So, National Assembly is on its own, the presidency is on its own. So, it creates a problem whereby the democratic process becomes difficult to manage and creates a wobbling democracy. And that's where we have found ourselves now. So I would advise that the 2023 election, whoever should be elected should have to address the issue of insecurity, the issue of economy, and the issue of corruption. These three basic things which the present government made attempt to address should be pursued and addressed properly and effectively. If not, if we miss 2023, we'll be in a war forever. I'm not a prophet of doom, but all eyes were looking up to 2023. We need Nigerians to address a leader of the people, not transactional leaders. Transactional leaders. We need charismatic leaders. We need leaders from the grassroots.
Thank you. We can come to Guinea-Bissau, a promising country led by America Cabral towards independence. Guinea-Bissau is like a sick baby of West Africa. Since its civil war in 1998-99, it has been in crisis. Yet, the ECOWAS has just appointed its president, Umaru Embalo, as the chairman of ECOWAS. What can be done about Guinea-Bissau? And does it make sense for ECOWAS to appoint the president of a country that is in perpetual crisis as its chairman?
Okay. The issue of Guinea-Bissau and the president being the president of ECOWAS, is that?
Yes.
Sorry. It's a procedural thing in ECOWAS.
Okay.
It's a procedural thing. So when it comes to his tune, definitely he will be. So whether it's a goat or cow that is ruling Guinea-Bissau, so far it is a routine thing. Definitely he will become the president of ECOWAS. As I said before, the issue is not who should be there. As long as ECOWAS remains ECOWAS of leaders, of heads of states, we cannot expect anything good from ECOWAS until we move to the ECOWAS of citizens, which they have. It's in the book. If not, you cannot say it shouldn't be. It has to. So that is the challenge we have found.
But what really is the difference?
The difference between
ECOWAS of the heads of state and ECOWAS of the...
Okay, part of the citizens ECOWAS is that, like the parliament, instead of Nigerian parliament choosing somebody to go and represent Nigeria there, is Nigerian citizens we elect. You understand? We elect the person that they want to go into that parliament. You understand? And by implication, if they elect the person, and those that are elected by ECOWAS citizens all over ECOWAS, they will now be able to elect whoever becomes the chairman of the ECOWAS as an organization. So in that way, you can hold the leadership responsible. The whole citizens of ECOWAS can team up and do a referendum and do a recall. You understand? Then it becomes a regional bloc decision of the people against whoever is ruling controlling the structure of ECOWAS. I think.
Thank you very much. This is Diplomatic Hour with OWEI LAKEMFA on Citizen 93.7 FM, Abuja. And our guest today is Professor GANI YOROMS, who is an expert in security. He also is a senior fellow at the Nigeria Defense College. ECOWAS once had some military group called ECOMOG that intervened in the civil wars in Liberia, in Sierra Leone. Can it still mount that kind of force to intervene in any country in West Africa to stabilize? Well, you talk about democracy also.
Yes. No, it's possible. It can still mount a peacekeeping force in any part of Africa. They did it in Gambia to flush out Yahya Jammeh. They did it. Provided the cause is genuine, definitely they can do it. But if the cause is not genuine, definitely, like the case of Guinea you are talking about, it's not genuine now. It's not. The people in Guinea are happy with the military regime in Guinea. They're happy with what the government... The guy couldn't kill a lot of people in the street, kill a lot of people. So, therefore, they're happy. And all the protocol agreement of ECOWAS that you don't stay more than 6 months, at least if you make a coup, it's not working because the man said he's going to stay for 2 years, 3 years. Because there's a genuine reason for why they came in, to rescue democracy from the hand of an autocrat. So that is what I'm trying to talk about. If there's need for military to stand by and rescue democracy from any government that is derailing, we should appreciate it. It's not something that, it's not all things that it's democracy. What is democracy? Democracy should be defined by the condition of the society, where it is structured, where it is located. It's not just copying what America is doing, what Britain is doing. Britain has its own. Go to the Netherlands, sir. Go to the Netherlands. They have pockets of kind of their own type of democracy. And it's doing well for them. Go to Belgium. Belgium is a country of different colors of people. France, Flemish, and all that. But they created rooms for everybody to participate. That's democracy. But in our democracy, yes, religion is not a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. Tribe is not a problem. And yet they are main problem. But in those countries, tribe, Belgium, religion, tribe is a problem. French, go to Quebec in Canada. Quebec said they want to go away. In Canada, say, what do you want? They said they want our language to be second language in Canada. Yeah. They say, okay, your language should be second. Quebec is just a territory, one small like this. So there are issues you need to address that you can define as your own democracy. But our own, we eschew religion, we take away. I mean, when my Muslim Christian friends are fighting Muslim against Sharia, I say, you wasted your time. In 1979, Muslims were fighting that Sharia should be in the constitution. Instead of you to fight that ecclesiastical court should be in the constitution also, you are fighting Muslims. This is what they want. And I like it. So therefore, democracy should be defined by the society, by the people, and not imported structure. My professor in the University of Ibadan, Peter Eke, talk about migrated structures. We don't have time to look at all these concepts. So migrated structure, what we are practicing is migrated democratic structures, which we are practicing. In fact, you call it emergent structures. You say, as colonialism was moving out of Europe to Africa, it came with an emergent structure, bureaucracy, security, democracy, which are not the same that is practiced in Europe. Are you understanding me?
Yeah.
What we are practicing here, the emergent structure. We emerge out of colonialism, out of our own practices and create a species of its own that has no bearing. So until we define our own structure, we will continue in the way we're going.
When you talk about Europe bringing its own type of structure for West Africa, can we look at the role of France? France seems to control so many economies in the West African coast. Has it been positive or negative?
Well, France actually, I'm not here to fight France, but honestly, France is the only colonial country that has kept Africa down for quite some time. Remember when they were leaving Guinea, when Secretary said we don't want them, they pinned everything they took out of Conakry. So France actually is not too friendly with Africa, but it has held onto its grip in Africa. One of its own policy is that it takes, according to information which is reliable, 500 billion out of Africa every year from all of its territories. France foreign policy is changing, but its colonial ties, its colonial territories are not allowed to change their foreign policy. I understand foreign policy of France now is one, anywhere they can get money. So whether you are francophone or anywhere, they can do investment. Two, they focus their foreign policy on European Union. Three, they focus their foreign policy on AU. Why AU? AU is made up of 53 countries, and European Union is made up of how many countries now? 30, 40 or so. Now, if you deal with this about 70 or 80 countries, it will be more profitable for them than focusing on any of these its francophone countries. But in spite of that, it has kept them where they are, to be benefiting from whatever it can gain from them. So France's policy in Africa needs to be reviewed, and Africa needs to take ownership of their own foreign policy. Britain has left us quite for some time, and we're struggling on our own, in spite of one influence or the other. But France, one or the other, keep on tapping into some of these countries. And the one that has done all these things in there, and that's where Mali is insisting that they don't want France. They just don't want France. They don't want France. And I keep on saying Mali should maintain its own stand. Because that is the only way we can fight the post-colonial war, neo-colonial war. Yeah.
Now, we're a region in West Africa. Can we have a collective solution? Is it possible, or we just have to deal with each issue as it comes up? Can there be a program?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Maybe I'm too wired in my answer to all your questions. In my scholarly work, I keep on emphasizing the issue of benign hegemon. Benign hegemon. And when I raise it, my colleagues will shut me down. We don't need hegemon. We don't need hegemon. You need hegemon, at least benign one. Since Obasanjo, Bouteflika,
in Algeria,
the president of Senegal,
Senghor, or what?
No, the one that left. No.
Diouf?
No, those are old folks. I'm talking of the guy that during this, when Obasanjo came, you see 5 of them with Tambo and Mbeki, they would take decision. That was how Nepal came about. When they needed money, they pumped money into it, and they needed something, action will be taken before AU will be to know about it. So it's like our own kind of P5. You understand?
Yeah.
That is what we want. But when you just gather people like a conference and see, Nigerian writing YA will say ECOWAS. What is the meaning of that? so free for all. People just sit down, LAKEMFA, just talk, and leave. You understand?
Yeah.
But if you have 5 solid people that will, like in the UN, that will make decision and put their money there, sir, things will work for Africa. When Obasanjo left with those 5 group of people, is AU working again? No, just answer me, sir. Is AU working again? AU is not working. AU is not working again. It's a club of leaders that come and just while away time from their country, drink tea and go back. That's all. But at that time, you found out that decisions, talk of Gaddafi, talk of Obasanjo, talk of Thabo Mbeki, talk of the Algerian president you mentioned, talk of the guy Abdullahi Wade.
Okay, Wade.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
Like Wade.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean, sir?
Yeah.
These people will talk and go to AU conference and say, this decision we have taken. Men and brethren, let us wake up. And they will follow it. The Western world will just line up. But today, they don't have respect for anybody. Like one of the head of state said that before, America would do something in Africa. America would do something in Africa. Before it does something in Africa, it will call a Nigerian president and say, this is what we're about to do. This is what we're about to do. But we just want to inform you. But today they don't inform you for anything. They do what they want. And this shouldn't be.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. This has been Diplomatic Hour with OWEI LAKEMFA on Citizen 93.7 FM. And our guest has been Professor GANI YOROMS. Thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yes.
One more thing. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon.